versus video for OnePlus 6T and the iPhone XS Max, and also the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. We're going to be comparing these phones in a couple of different categories so you can have a better understanding of how they perform in these categories, and also you can use that information to decide which phone is right for you. Alright guys, so one of the first categories we're going to take a look at this video is all about the look and feel of these three devices. Each device is actually really different in how it looks, how it feels, and what the manufacturer intended for the experience to be for the user. So we're going to give a start with the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, and we're going to take a look at exactly how this kind of feels in your hand and what to expect when you pick it up and use it in your day-to-day life. So the Samsung Galaxy Note 9, first of all, is glass on the front and glass on the back with an aluminum frame. It's going to be Gorilla Glass 5 on each side. The screen size is about 6.4 inches and the pixel density is about 1440 by 2960. So it has really thin bezels on the top and the bottom of the phone. So the screen to body ratio is about 83.9%. So that's a really insane screen to body ratio. And Samsung kind of went a different way than most of the other phones out currently. They, instead of winning the notch way where they extended the screen all the way to the top and bottom and included a notch for the front facing camera, they went with putting top and bottom bezels that are really thin, including the front facing camera in those bezels. So it also gives you a really nice rounded view. So there's no real notch interfering in the way when you're watching and consuming media on the phone itself. The weight of the phone is about 7.9 ounces. So it actually is not very heavy. If you're going to put a case on it, of course, that's going to increase the weight a bit, but it's still not going to get overly heavy. It's not something that's going to bother you as you use it throughout your day-to-day usage. The storage is about 128 gigabytes. It starts at about 128 gigabytes, but it has an expandable SD slot and it can expand up to a terabyte worth of storage. So that's a lot of space that you can include in this phone. Now, the phone itself does feel extremely premium in your hand. You're going to feel like you purchased a really nice, expensive premium phone because it is an expensive phone. So you want it to feel great. It has a nice weight to it. The buttons are really clickable. The buttons are really accessible. The design of the phone itself really is a fantastic design. It has bottom facing speakers. The speakers are not that great, but the overall design of the phone is great. You have the back facing cameras. It's a dual camera setup in the back with the fingerprint scanner placed kind of directly below the camera itself. It's a better placement than the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, but it's still a little high, so you may have to stretch a little bit to reach the fingerprint scanner. The entire design of the phone is very sleek. It's very comfortable to hold, and Samsung, I think, did a fantastic job with the way this phone not only looks, but also feels and performs. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the iPhone XS Max. This is one of the top of the model iPhones that are currently out right now. And if you take a look, it has a glass front and a glass back as well, adaptable to wireless charging. It's a Gorilla Glass front with a stainless steel frame and a Gorilla Glass back. So the sleekness of this design is actually really nice. Apple always does a fantastic job of making sure their phones look premium, making sure their phones kind of stand out and look different than everybody else's phones that are on the market. You can tell an Apple phone when you pull it out of your pocket, and this one is no exception. The screen size of the phone is about 6.5 inches with a pixel density of about 2688 by 1242 for the resolution. And because they're able to extend that screen all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom and around the sides, with that notch in the middle, the screen to body ratio is about 84.4%. So that's a little bit better than the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. But again, bear in mind that there's that notch in the middle of the actual screen itself, and that can sometimes get in the way of your media consumption because you have to account for it. You can relegate that notch or relegate the screen to avoid that notch when you're watching things, but then it does shrink the screen a little bit. So if you want a full screen experience, you have to factor in that notch that's going to be at the top of the phone. Now the phone comes in at about 7.34 ounces. It's not that heavy. It's a little bit heavier than the Note 9, but it also just, it feels really sleek and premium in your hand. So I don't really find that there's a big weight difference between the two. And again, if you're putting a case on it, it's going to jump up just a little bit more. Again, these phones are not heavy at all. These phones are very light. They're very easy to carry around, and day-to-day usage, you're really not going to be bothered by how heavy these phones are. They fit perfectly in your pockets for the most part. You know, if you're buying a big phone, phone, it's going to be a little bit more of a task carrying them around in the smaller ones. So I think anybody that's going into the big phone market kind of knows what they're expecting, so they're not going to be put off too much by 1 ounces here or 1 ounces there of these phones. So it's not heavy at all, feels really premium in your hands. I think Apple did a great job with that design. Now, storage wise, you have a 256 variant, you have a 64 gigabyte variant, and a 512 gigabyte variant. Now, the one thing that the Note 9 has that the iPhone does not is an expandable storage ability. So the iPhone doesn't have anything that gives you the ability to expand storage. Bear in mind though that you do have cloud options, so you don't necessarily need internal storage in the phone to store everything. You have the ability to add iCloud, you can do Dropbox, you can do the Google storage. So you do have different options if you need to, include more than 64 gigabyte, for instance. If you purchase that particular variant, you're not stuck with 64 gigs. You can offload a lot of your things into a cloud storage that you can download access to directly through your phone. So it's almost like you have that expandable storage without having that expandable storage. Again, I think Apple did a great job designing this phone. It looks premium. It feels premium. The buttons are great. Everything in the way of the design of the phone itself is great. You just have to really relegate yourself to deciding if you like notches or not, because the notch is definitely there. But if you can deal with the notch, the screen is a beautiful screen, and the phone design and performance itself is also very top-notch, as always with Apple. And last but definitely not least, we're going to take a look at the OnePlus 6T. So this is probably one of the newest phones out on the market. It came out after the other two previously mentioned. This is OnePlus's upgrade to the OnePlus 6 that came out recently in 2018. So the OnePlus 6T has a glass front and a glass back with an aluminum frame. The screen size is about 6.41 inches. So it's a little bit bigger than the Note 9, a little bit smaller than the iPhone XS Max. Now this one definitely has the lowest resolution of the three. This one is 1080 by 2340, but the screen to body ratio is higher than the others. So the screen to body ratio of the OnePlus 6T is 85.5, so 85.5%. It weighs in at about 6.52, so it is actually lighter than the other two as well. And the variants come in 128 and 256 gigabyte, and they also don't have any expandable storage. So you'll be using that cloud storage option I mentioned with the iPhone SX Max. Now the great thing about the OnePlus 6T is it's just a really great designed phone. Again, I mentioned that screen to body ratio of 85.5%. The phone feels a lot smaller than the other two. It feels a lot less like a heavier phone. This phone itself feels like it's a small phone with a big phone body. And that's weird to say, but it does feel like it's more portable. It's more able to be carried around from day-to-day basis. I think a lot of people that are looking for a larger phone but don't want a larger form factor will be more inclined to go with the OnePlus 6T. This phone does still feel extremely premium in your hand, and being on this list of top-end phones, it's costing a lot less than the other two that were aforementioned. Pricing does play a lot into what somebody decides to buy. So if you decide to go with a larger phone, the OnePlus 6T is definitely probably going to be on your list just because of the price alone. It has some really great specs. The screen itself, the resolution of 1080 by 2340 is not bad at all. And once you're watching and immersed inside the content itself, I don't think you'll really see much of a difference between the three phones on this list. The OnePlus 6T feels really great in your hand. The buttons are extremely clickable as well. They feel great to press. You throw a case on this thing, it does perform like a premium phone with a smaller price tag.